Angeba Sojola here. In this video, we'll be particularly looking at an infrastructural project that is particularly a Chinese led initiative, right? This project basically started in 2013 under the presidency of Xi Jinping, right? This project is basically known as the Belt and Road Initiative. When we speak of the Belt and Road Initiative, known as BRI for short, right? We are fundamentally speaking of physical infrastructural projects which are built in a number of countries in such a way as to connect or produce a trade route, right? That starts from China, right? Moves into the various parts of Asia, right? Then goes to Europe, right? And connects and builds a number of infrastructure in Europe, and then eventually lands in Africa, right? Where it also builds a number of projects, right? The type of projects which are built range from power stations, right? Rail tracks and trains, right? Bridges and roads, seaports, and airports, right? It is believed that the Belt and Road Initiative shall span about 147 countries, right, to create a global, a shift in global trade that is in the favor of China, right, and developing countries, right? When we speak of the BRI, right, the Belt and Road Initiative, right, it covers an area which has a global GDP of about 40%, right? This area covers about two-thirds. This is about 65% of the global population, right? And within these countries, in which this trade route known as the Belt and Road Initiative, right, you find basically about 75 to 80% of the places where energy is produced, right? So it is quite a big economic project. Now, let me say it was presented as quite a big economic project that is basically the road to riches for a number of countries which will eventually partake in this road uh, Belt and Road Initiative. Now, the Belt and Road Initiative fundamentally finds its inspiration in a trade route that is known as the Silk Road, right? Which started in China and spanned about 8,000 kilometers of land and sea, right? To connect China to other parts of the world. Now, in 2023, the Belt and Road Initiative will be celebrating about 10 years of existence, right? In around October. So quite recently, just last month, right? We just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of the BRT, right? Now, the Chinese Development Bank has been the central to the development of a lot of the infrastructural projects that you find on the Belt and Road Initiative, right? The Chinese bank has so far invested about 1 trillion US dollars in the project, but it is planned to invest to up to about $8 trillion in the entire project by 2040. Now, just as an example to show the extent to which the infrastructure has been built, there's a corridor, a Pakistan-Chinese corridor that is believed to be the main flagship of the project. They spent about 65 billion US dollars in developing this, right? There's also another highway in Pakistan that they have developed. They've developed a seaport in Sri Lanka, and they had created a hydropower plant in Uganda, and they created a forest city in Malaysia, right? And these are just a few examples. And they've also created a motorway in Serbia, right? So there's a number of different types of infrastructural projects that had been developed in the BRI. So the countries involved see this as an economic opportunities to develop their own economies and to modernize it with this infrastructural project. So to the world, this appears as if it is an economic initiative, right? But we must understand that we are fundamentally dealing with China here, right? Now, we must look at and understand how China sees the Belt and Road Initiative. Now, China fundamentally, yes, there is an economic element to the Belt and Road Initiative, but in its core, in its fundamental purpose, right? It was developed to, number one, yes, shift global trade in the favor of China. But number two, to also shift the geopolitics and increase Chinese influence in the geopolitics of Earth, or the geopolitics of the world, right? And it is also a military project. China fundamentally sees the BIR as a military political project for it to be able to increase its influence in the world so that it can increase its footprint in leadership and directing world affairs and geopolitics. So when you look at the BRI, right? Yes, it has economic benefits. Yes, it has an effect of um, developing nations, right, and particularly nations of the global south, right. But in its core, it is a political military strategy, right, which is known as the People's War. But in this case, is instead of giving people military equipment to attack the enemy, right, you give the people or the countries infrastructure, right, so that you can have influence with them, so that you can be able to direct global affairs against the USA and against Europe, right? So it is a political military project, right, to push China to be a dominant force in global affairs, right? So, with that said, I don't think there's anything more I can add to this. If not, then thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Now, as of November 2023, there's about two countries which have pulled out of the Belt and Road Initiative, right? Citing different things, right? The first country which pulled out was Italy, right? The second country to pull out is the Philippines, right? And another thing which tends to be a problem in with the Belt and Road Initiative is the fact of the debt trap that the West is claiming that China is pushing there, right? Pushing countries to take exorbitant loans, right, in which they can't pay back, in which it causes the country to transfer certain assets towards the ownership of China and things like that, right? So there are a number of problems in the BRI, right? But nothing which necessarily is um, will stop the project from carrying on, right? More money shall be put in the project, up to 8 trillion US dollars will be put in this project. So according to me, let's see how it goes. And yeah, there's only been two countries which have pulled out.